I stood at the altar, a place I had dreamed of for years, about to marry the woman I had loved for what felt like an eternity. Yet, all I could think about was the third-story window in the adjacent ballroom, and whether the jump would be enough to get me away from here. The reason was simple, if unbelievable. I had been reborn. In my previous life, Clara and I were married for over 2 decades. We were the couple everyone pointed to as an example, the one friends admired and envied. But that idyllic image shattered on our 25th wedding anniversary when she took her own life, choosing to die alongside the man she had truly loved all along. I remember standing before her tombstone, the cold marble a stark contrast to the warmth I once felt for her. "Do you regret marrying me?" I murmured into the quiet air. Knowing no answer would come, I supplied my own. "I regret marrying you. When I woke up again, I was here, moments before our wedding. This time I decided I would run. We would just become strangers who once knew each other. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. In the blur of my escape, she found me, looking as though she were on the verge of death herself, and whispered words that would haunt me. "I never regretted marrying you," she said. "Not in this life or the last. It was always you." When I came to my senses, a gentle tap on my shoulder pulled me from my daze. The grand doors at the end of the aisle swung open, and there she was. Clara, a woman who had been gone from my life for 10 years, was walking towards me in a pristine white wedding dress. Bathed in the soft glow of the chandeliers, she looked like an angel descended from heaven. The entire audience fell into a stunned silence, every eye captivated by her ethereal beauty. My heart, however, was hammering against my ribs, and a cold sweat broke out across my forehead. Someone gave me a gentle nudge, a silent command to move towards the stage, a step I myself had meticulously planned, but now my feet were rooted to the spot. My gaze locked with Clara's from across the room. She offered a radiant smile, but I couldn't return it. I turned my head away, and then, without a second thought, I ran. The wedding was over before it began. There was no way I was marrying her. Chaos immediately erupted behind me. The hotel was a sprawling labyrinth of corridors and function rooms, and I couldn't immediately find an exit. I could hear the frantic footsteps of Clara's family and friends chasing after me. Her father, his face a mask of displeasure, cut me off. "Leo, the wedding has begun," he said, his voice dangerously low. "Stop this foolishness and finish the ceremony." I shook my head, my refusal firm and absolute. It was impossible to believe, but I had somehow been reborn, thrown back to my own wedding day with Clara. This second chance was a clear sign, a divine intervention telling me not to walk down that same path of misery again. Relatives caught up, their voices pleading. "Whatever's bothering you, just get through the wedding first. Clara is waiting for you." The thought of Clara waiting for me sent a jolt of panic through my system. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flash of white, a figure moving towards me like a speeding arrow. There was no more time for hesitation. I pushed open a nearby window and leaped out. We were on the 3rd floor. Thankfully, a thick canvas awning broke my fall. A sharp, searing pain shot through my side as I pushed myself up, but it was nothing. Absolutely nothing, compared to the heartache Clara had inflicted upon me over 2 decades. Leaning heavily on my side, I limped away as horrified guests peeked out of the window I'd just exited. "Leo, you've lost your mind!" someone shouted. "You actually ran out on your own wedding!" Clara was among them, her face a mixture of anxiety and deep worry. "Leo, what are you doing?" she called out. "What about our wedding?" In my past life, I would never have dreamed of doing something so reckless, so publicly humiliating, but this wasn't my past life. "Clara, marrying you was the biggest mistake I ever made," I shouted back, my voice raw. "I'm fixing that mistake right now. Remember this. I'm the one calling it off." I didn't wait to see her reaction. I hailed the first taxi I saw and sped away, leaving the wreckage of our wedding day behind. I knew better than anyone that the white dress, the vows, the entire ceremony, none of it was for me. She was never truly marrying me. The memories swirled in my mind, pulling me back to that sterile police station. "Do you know anything about this man?" the officer had asked, showing me a photo. "His name is Julian. He died with your wife, Clara." I was so lost then, so utterly helpless. For more than 20 years, I had never truly seen the woman I shared a life with. This time I refused to repeat the past. To get away from everyone, I used the excuse of my fall and had the taxi take me to the hospital. My phone was immediately overwhelmed with calls and texts, a mix of nosy relatives and furious friends. One text stood out. "Leo, how could you do this to Clara? She's passed out from crying. Get over here and make amends." I didn't care. Clara wouldn't be upset about me leaving. She would be relieved. Now she and Julian could finally be together. In a way, they should be thanking me. Lost in my thoughts, the door to my private hospital room swung open, revealing my furious parents. "Leo, you have some nerve," my father began, his voice tight with anger. "First, skipping out on your own wedding, and now jumping out of windows. What has gotten into you?" I hadn't expected them to find me so quickly. I instinctively wanted to dive under the blankets and beg for mercy. "Don't scold me," I said, my voice weak. "I'm already in the hospital." I woefully held up my bandaged arm, hoping to stir some parental sympathy. They just gave a cold snort in unison. "Serves you right," my mother said. "Clara is in this hospital too, and you need to take responsibility for that." So that's why they came so quickly. Clara's acting skills were truly top-notch, enough to convince everyone she hadn't wanted the wedding to end either. Then, my parents laid down the law. "Once you're discharged, you are going to reschedule the wedding with Clara." "No," I said, my voice forceful and clear, causing a moment of stunned silence. Our marriage had been something I had pushed for relentlessly. I had fallen for Clara in high school after transferring, nursing a crush on her for 5 long years. When her family's business hit a rough patch, they approached my parents with a proposal for a marital alliance. I was thrilled at the time and went to great lengths to convince my parents to agree. But now, everything had changed, a fact they couldn't possibly comprehend. "Why?" a soft, feminine voice asked. My parents stepped aside to reveal Clara herself, no longer in her wedding dress, but in a simple hospital gown. The sight of her frail, pale figure tugged at my heart, a fleeting pang of pity and sorrow. She fixed her gaze on me and asked again, "Why won't you marry me?" I hardened my expression, forcing the softness from my voice. "Because I don't love you anymore." When Clara heard my answer, it was as if all the strength drained from her body. Her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed, fainting right there on the floor. My parents shot me a hard glare before quickly following the nurses who rushed her back to her room. For a moment, I considered going with them, but I held myself back. I couldn't understand it. When did Clara's health become so fragile? Or was she just pretending? After that incident, my parents were furious and didn't visit me again. A few days later, my friend Mark stopped by to check on me, giving me an appreciative thumbs up. "You're something else, man," he said with a laugh. "Making Clara pass out like that. Weren't you completely obsessed with her before? Chased her forever? You were just about to get married, and then you just quit. What happened?" I waved a dismissive hand. "Got tired of chasing her," I said lightly. "Let her chase me for a while." Just as I said it, I looked up and saw Clara standing in the doorway of my hospital room, a faint smile on her face. "I don't want to see you," I said flatly, trying to dismiss her. She wasn't bothered. She walked in carrying a thermos and began pouring its contents into a bowl. "I made some bone broth for you," she said softly. "Have some while it's still hot." Mark, sensing the sudden tension in the room, made a quick excuse and bolted, leaving me alone to face off with Clara. I remained stone-faced, refusing to look at her. She brought the bowl over, coaxing me like I was a child. "Just smell it," she urged. "It's so good." The familiar aroma hit me, and a wave of memories washed over me. In our past life, Clara and I had been married for 25 years, the model couple in everyone's eyes. I had thought so too. She planned our life perfectly, managing everything with an effortless grace. The only oddity was her frequent absences on holidays and anniversaries, which she always attributed to work. She would always apologize profusely and bring back gifts, things she knew I would like or had mentioned wanting offhandedly. Clara, who had never cooked before our marriage, had learned how to make elaborate meals. She would cook whenever she was home, worried about my sensitive stomach. She learned to make all kinds of soups, and this bone broth was my absolute favorite. I once believed it was a sign of how much she cared, but I later learned the bitter truth. That thought made the soup lose all its appeal. I turned my head away. "I don't want it, and I don't want to see you. Just leave." Clara bit her lip, her entire body trembling slightly. After a long, tense pause, she forced a weak smile. "You don't feel like it now, so I'll just leave it here. Remember to have some when you get hungry." I didn't want to listen to her, so I pulled the covers over my head. I heard her moving around the room for a while, the faint rustling of her clothes. Finally, the door clicked shut. I peeked out. She had tidied the room and left a bouquet of fresh flowers on the bedside table, right where I would see them. She's quite an actress, I thought bitterly. For the next few days, Clara showed up 3 times a day like clockwork, each time with a carefully prepared meal. I never touched a single one. While I ignored her, she would quietly decorate the room, making it feel more comfortable, more like a home. It began to resemble the room from our past life, a similarity that made my skin crawl with discomfort. The moment Clara left on the 3rd day, I checked myself out of the hospital. I was going home. As it turned out, I was far too optimistic. I had barely set foot inside my house when Clara showed up as well. I found her in the living room, busily massaging my parents' shoulders. "If your shoulders bother you, Uncle Auntie, I'm always here to help," she was saying sweetly. My parents saw me coming down the stairs. "Leo, you just got out of the hospital," my mother called out. "Let Clara give you a massage." Clara looked at me, her eyes full of hopeful expectation. It was painfully clear that my parents had sold me out. I could understand why they were so pleased with her. Before knowing the real Clara, I had been fooled by her kind and gentle nature, too. But what was she really after? Then it hit me. Her family's company had a major funding issue, and they needed to marry into money. Clara was afraid my family wouldn't help them if the wedding was off. She needn't have worried. Her family's company did very well after the rough patch last time. It had been a smart investment. Seeing her as nothing more than a potential business deal, I softened my tone slightly. My parents noticed the shift in my demeanor and nudged Clara toward me. She lost her balance and fell against me like a delicate leaf. I instinctively caught her, shocked at how thin she had become. She felt fragile, as if she might break if I held her too tightly. Frowning, I met her gaze. Her eyes were red-rimmed, a mix of embarrassment and joy. I was instantly annoyed and pushed her away, perhaps a bit too roughly. Clara staggered but remained smiling, and my parents gave me knowing looks, as if my resistance was just an act, I had to get out of there. "I have plans," I announced, grabbing my phone. "I won't be home tonight." I headed for the door, but Clara, relentless, jogged after me. As I got to my car, she reached for the passenger door. "Stop!" I snapped, my voice loud and harsh. "Can you just stop bothering me?" She looked startled, frozen in place, her shoulders shaking. Her weak, vulnerable appearance only irritated me more. "I know you're here for the money," I said coldly. "Don't worry, I'll make the investment even if we don't get married. Happy now? Now leave me alone." She didn't react, just stood there as I sped away. In a private booth at a noisy bar, some acquaintances were chattering about my recent exploits. "Leo, you're insane," one said. "You threw away the campus queen after finally winning her over, and right at the wedding." "I knew it," another chimed in. "Leo's just playing hard to get. The whole running away act was just to reel Clara in and show her who's boss." "Clara's reputation is shot now," a third sneered. "Serves her right. She was always so stuck up, looking down on those of us who liked to party. Now she's the one getting played." Listening to their mockery, I realized my escape had turned Clara into a joke in our social circle. Once the darling of the school, now she was someone anyone could mock. I didn't want to get involved in their gossip. I just silently drank my drink. I stumbled back home in the early morning, wobbly on my feet. My mother and father were sitting on the living room couch, their faces grim. "You're getting more and more out of hand," my father said, his voice laced with disappointment. "Drinking all night. Clara was such a wonderful girl, and you decided to just dump her. You were the one who was so desperate to marry her in the first place. You better give us a good reason today." Hearing their words sobered me up instantly. Yes, I had pushed for it back then. I had lived in pain long enough to realize that things you have to force are never sweet. I remembered the day I got the news of Clara's death. It was our 25th wedding anniversary. The day before, for the first time in our marriage, I had stood up to her. It wasn't for much, just a plea for her to come home for our anniversary. That day was also the 30th anniversary of the day I first fell for her. "If you don't come back," I had said, my voice shaking with a desperation I rarely showed, "let's just get a divorce." To Clara, threats like that must have been nothing but a joke. That night, as I waited alone for her in the restaurant, I got the call. Clara was dead. After hanging up, I dashed madly to the police station. "Are you Clara's husband?" an officer asked. Once they confirmed my identity, they looked at me with eyes full of sympathy. They told me Clara had committed suicide with another man named Julian, a suspected lover's pact. "Do you know anything about this Julian?" That unfamiliar name was one I had never even heard before. I just shook my head numbly. I finally found out who Julian was at Clara's funeral. Her best friend was sobbing uncontrollably over the casket. "If I'd known how much you loved Julian," she wept, "I would have done anything to stop you from marrying Leo." That's when I learned Julian was Clara's senior from college. They had never lost touch. Every holiday, every anniversary Clara had missed, she had spent with him. At the end of the funeral, I was the only one left. I mumbled to her gravestone, "Clara, do you regret marrying me?" The stone remained silent, but I knew the answer. I regretted marrying her, too. If I had another chance, I would never have gotten involved with her. With that thought, my mind cleared. I looked at my parents, my resolve firm. "I can't marry her," I said. "I can't explain why, but I will help her family with their business." My mother sighed heavily. "You'll regret this, Leo. But fine. We won't interfere with you anymore. Do whatever you want." I went back to my room and slept like a rock. Once I was refreshed, I texted Clara, telling her to meet me at my office. She showed up quickly, looking completely done up. Her hair was styled in soft waves, and she wore a white dress, as if she were going on a date. "Leo?" she said, a shy, cute look on her face like a teenage girl with a crush. "It's been so long since you asked me out." I ignored her comment and tossed a contract onto the table between us. My tone was all business. "I know your family needs $60 million, I said. "Sign this, and I'll give you what you want. But after that, don't ever contact me again." Clara remained quiet, her gaze fixed on the table. "Come on," I urged. "I'm giving you what you want. Don't be greedy." Hearing this, Clara looked up, her eyes full of tears. She threw the contract back at me, rushed over and grabbed my shirt, forcing me to meet her gaze. "Leo, I never wanted an investment. I wanted you from the very beginning. Haven't I been clear enough?" Tears rolled down her face as she lightly hit my chest with her fist. It didn't hurt at all. "We were married for over 20 years. You're reborn now, and you're bullying your wife like this. You weren't like this in the past life." My brow furrowed. I had no idea Clara had been reborn too. No wonder I had felt something was off about her all along. In this life, she learned to cook only after we got married. Since she was also reborn, it was better to lay everything out on the table. My face turned cold as ice. "Don't you dare mention the past life," I snarled. "You know exactly what you did back then. Since you're reborn too, let's just go our separate ways. I won't stop you from finding your true love, and don't use investments as an excuse to bother me again." "That's not true. What you said at the gravestone." Before she could finish, the security guards I had called earlier arrived and escorted her out. With everything finally settled, I hopped on a plane abroad the next day, telling everyone it was for a project survey, but it was really just to get away. In my previous life, I gave up so much for Clara. I knew she was busy, so I always accommodated her schedule. That meant hardly ever going on trips or hanging out with friends. Also, I could see her the moment she got back. Even on holidays when she couldn't make it home, I'd make excuses for her. Everyone else is off work, so she needs to work harder to stay ahead, I would tell myself. I fooled myself like that for over 2 decades, living in the illusion of love Clara had built for me. When I finally woke up from that dream, I realized how pathetic I was. Why waste my precious time on one woman? But even as I tried to avoid any news about her, some idiots in my friend group would share it, hoping to see her become a joke. Monday. Clara is so fake, showing off at Leo's parents' house every day. Leo doesn't even want her anymore. He's abroad now. How shameless can she get? Tuesday. Clara joined Leo's parents for a banquet. Is she really playing the daughter-in-law now, or just fooling them? Wednesday. Clara was spotted at Leo's usual club. Was she there looking for him, or to find a new man? Thursday. Clara was running around like a headless chicken, looking for any trace of Leo, but nobody would tell her anything. Serves her right. After 2 days without any news, the gossip mill fired up again. Turns out she had been admitted to the hospital again. No one in the group even tried to feign sympathy. Here we go again. Is she just acting? Trying to make Leo feel sorry for her? She's really scheming. I stared at the messages that quickly filled the chat and remained silent. If Clara also got a second chance, why wasn't she busy fixing the regrets from her past life and pursuing a happy ending with Julian? Why was she still keeping tabs on me? The first installment of the investment had already hit her family's account. Did she not care about the money and wanted something more? In our past life, after we got married, my family's wealth was as good as hers. I practically handed everything over to her, an amount far greater than a mere $60 million. If Clara came back to this life, her hunger for wealth would only be greater. As for this hospital stay, I knew her health well enough. Unless she was actively trying to ruin it, she would live well into her 60s or 70s without a problem. She was just putting on a show. I spent a month traveling through Europe, wild and free. but my mom kept hounding me to come back, so eventually I had to return. I wasn't expecting to run into the one person I didn't want to see the moment I stepped off the plane. I clicked my tongue in annoyance, but Clara had a hopeful smile pasted on her face. "Leo, I came to pick you up and take you home," she said. I turned around and walked away, pulling my suitcase behind me. Before long, she faded into the background. I was about to get a ride myself, but I knew my mom had sent her. Going back alone would just earn me a scolding. So I grudgingly waited for her near the entrance. But then I saw Clara walking out with another man, and that man was her lifelong crush, Julian. They were walking side by side, bickering playfully. I watched the scene unfold, my eyes turning dark and unreadable. I never saw this in our past life, but I was getting a clear view this time around. I should have seen it coming. How could I have been so foolish as to not learn my lesson? I let out a cold laugh and got into my own car. When I got back to my neighborhood, I saw my mom waiting at the door from a block away. Her expression quickly soured when she saw I was alone. "Why are you back by yourself?" she demanded. "Where's Clara? She's a girl, and you just left her stranded at the airport. How did I raise such an inconsiderate son? That girl has made so many concessions for you. What could she have possibly done that's so unforgivable?" If my parents knew how Clara had treated me in our past life, they'd regret trying to pair us up so eagerly. But you can't just spill the beans about something like that. Thankfully, I now had a solid excuse. "I couldn't hide it anymore, Mom," I said, my voice heavy with feigned disappointment. "Clara came to pick me up with her crush. She's in love with her college senior. Do you want your son to keep chasing after her and get his heart stomped on? Am I really your son?" The news stunned my mom into silence. "That can't be right," she mumbled to herself. "Clara wouldn't like someone else. She told me herself." She thought for a while, considering how I had been acting. No matter how much she liked Clara, she had to believe me. After all, I was her son. She knew my character. For me to bully a girl out of nowhere, something serious must have happened. After realizing this, my mom sheepishly smiled. "Oh, son, I had no idea she was that kind of person. Come on, let's go home. You haven't had a proper meal in so long. I'm cooking tonight." That night, I finally felt a mother's love I hadn't felt in a long, long time. And the good news was, after realizing Clara's true nature, my mom slammed the door on her, not even letting her into our gated community. But Clara wasn't giving up. She started staking out the spots where I hung out with my friends. My buddies even started to admire her persistence. "Clara showed up again today," Mark texted me. "She looks frail, but her endurance is insane. You're going to lose this standoff. Just get out of the house and have some fun. Don't you get bored cooped up all day?" Of course it was boring. I felt like I was growing moss. I decided to schedule a meetup at a club, a place I knew Clara, with her neat freak tendencies, would never step foot in. The place was buzzing with loud music and a sea of dancing bodies. A vibrant scene until an out-of-place figure walked in and killed the vibe. Clara seemed like a lingering spirit, a disaster I couldn't seem to avoid. Her frail form cut through the crowd and came right up to me. Her delicate hands grabbed mine, trying to pull me away. But she was too weak. I remained unbudged. She stubbornly looked up at me, her words laced with pleading. "Leo, just give me a chance to explain, please! After you hear me out, if you still can't accept it, I'll disappear from your life forever. Just give me one more chance, okay?" Tears welled up in her eyes. In our previous life, I had never seen her cry, not once. I thought she was either incredibly tough or just downright cold-hearted. But here she was, shedding tears for the second time right in front of me, as if she were finally willing to show me all her vulnerabilities. That was all I ever wanted back then. I didn't want her to carry everything alone. She could have leaned on me. I was her husband, after all. The Clara in front of me overlapped with the fond memories of the Clara from our past. My resistance crumbled. I let her lead me away from the crowd. "This is your last chance, Clara," I warned. We found a quiet spot where no one was around. For a long time, Clara just cried, her body shaking, speaking in broken sentences. I used the last shred of patience I had while she gathered herself. After a while, she calmed down. She looked at me with sad eyes and finally spoke. "Leo, after I died in the previous life, my soul stayed with you. I heard your words by my tombstone." My mind went blank. Rebirth was already unbelievable, but hearing that Clara's soul had lingered after her death left me stunned. How could this be? But what she said next shocked me even more. In my past life, a conqueror from another world took over my body. Her goal was to capture Julian, but her progress wasn't going well, and my own consciousness was too strong, so her control over my body was never complete. Every time I managed to wake up, I just wanted to go home and see you. Just one more time. I battled her for over 20 years, and I watched her fail. I knew that eventually I could return to you. In the end, she chose to die with Julian. It was only after my body died that my soul could be with you forever. In places you couldn't see, I was always there with you. Every day I saw your pain, and it hurt me too. I know the person in my body let you down, Leo, but I swear it wasn't me who hurt you. The real Clara would only ever love Leo for a lifetime. What she said left me unable to calm down for a long time. It was just too bizarre. What system? What conqueror? Then why were we both reborn? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. It was the system's compensation, she explained, for what it did to my body. So, my rebirth was because of Clara's deal with some cosmic system. I stood there, stunned, my heart racing. Emotionally, I wanted to accept her explanation, but rationally, I couldn't separate the past Clara into two different people. The wounds I had suffered were very, very real. Clara saw that I wasn't ready to forgive her. She smiled bitterly, a look of farewell in her eyes. "This is the last time we'll meet," she said softly. "I have only one last thing to say. The question you asked by the tombstone in our past life, I want to answer you now. I never regretted marrying you. In this life, and in the last, you were the only one I ever wanted to be with." Her voice was filled with an endless sadness and reflection. She took one last look at me, her eyes tracing my figure. Then, like a gear flying off its axle, she suddenly collapsed. I thought I had let go of my feelings for her, but I instinctively rushed to her side, my voice choking up. Clara, what happened? Don't scare me. How can you be sick? In our past life, you were so healthy." No matter how I called her name, she didn't respond. She lay there, seemingly caught in some great pain she couldn't escape. In that moment, I was panicked. I trembled as I held her. She felt weightless, even thinner than the last time I saw her. Something important felt like it was slipping away, and my heart ached faintly. This time, Clara didn't wake up after fainting. After a series of tests at the hospital, the doctor regretfully informed me that she had late-stage pancreatic cancer. Hearing the diagnosis, I felt like I had fallen into an ice cave, everything cold and numb. I was probably the person who understood this condition the most, besides the doctor. In my past life, I had died of it within 3 months of being diagnosed. But how could Clara get this disease? She was always so healthy. For over 2 decades, she rarely even caught a cold. In this life, she had cancer, with not much time left. Was this the price we paid for the system altering our fates? Then why was I okay? On the 3rd day, Clara slowly woke up. I had been by her side the entire time, gripping her hand tightly. The moment she moved, I was instantly alert. "Clara, how are you feeling?" I asked anxiously, but Clara's eyes were tearful. "Leo, it's true. You finally forgave me. I thought everything I heard was just a dream." Her face was pale, without a hint of color, but her eyes were bright, gazing at me greedily. Seeing her like this, looking as though she might leave me at any second, I held her tightly. "I was too stubborn," I whispered, "pushing you away time and again. I won't do that anymore." I had taken out all my anger for the fake Clara on the real one. She wasn't at fault. She was a victim, too, watching her own body act against her will. I believe it pained her more than it ever did me. Clara leaned against me and seemed to fall asleep again. After a while, she whispered in my ear, "Leo, I want to go home. Please take me home." The doctor told me her condition was declining rapidly. A month would be optimistic. Staying in the hospital would allow for timely treatment, but Clara didn't want to spend her last moments there. I took her back to the home we had shared in our past life. Her spirits seemed to lift, and her face looked a bit more vibrant, but I knew she was just holding on. Late at night, she was in terrible pain. Her body would curl up, trying to find a position to ease her suffering. But I knew that no matter what, the pain deep in her bones wouldn't go away. She couldn't sleep through the night, and I would lie by her side, silently weeping, soaking the sheets while pretending to be asleep. Seeing the love of my life suffer hurt me deeply. I understood each of her symptoms intimately, feeling them just as keenly. Yet, when the sun rose and light flooded the room, we would act like nothing had happened. Clara would smile and head to the kitchen to make soup for me. In reality, she would direct while I did the washing and chopping. The soup, after she tasted it, would all end up in my stomach. "So delicious," I'd say. "I want to drink your soup for a lifetime." "Then I'll make it for you forever," she'd reply. But our forever seemed so short. In our past lives, we had missed each other. This time around, we managed to clear up the misunderstandings, yet we still faced the painful prospect of parting. Later, she was in so much pain during the day that she couldn't move. I would hold her while we sat in the rocking chair in the garden. She would rest her eyes while I recounted all the silly things I did when I fell for her at first sight after transferring schools in our senior year. Clara would laugh so hard she'd start coughing. Then, she mysteriously told me a secret. "I actually knew about all the sneaky things you were up to," she said. "That's why I couldn't help falling for you. No one else was as sincere with me as you were." Listening to her, tears rolled down my face. Clara kept talking until she was too tired. She murmured, "Leo, I wish I could marry you again. I love you so much." I struggled to hold back my own tears, trying to speak clearly, word by word. "You already are my wife. In this life, I only have you. I love you." A gentle breeze swept through the branches, carrying away the last leaves barely hanging on. They fluttered down to the ground. In my arms, Clara closed her eyes and took her last breath. For a long time, I finally cried out loud, like a child. Why? Why couldn't Clara and I have a love like everyone else's? I cried for so long that I started seeing things. A strange, soft light was slowly rising from Clara's body, floating into the air. I reached out and gently grasped it. A strange, mechanical voice echoed in my mind. "Human, let me go. I am a noble system." I couldn't believe it. The system had been with Clara all along. Was her death because of it? I glared fiercely at the light in my hand. "Tell me," I demanded. "Did you cause Clara's death? Why did you hurt her? Believe me, I can make you disappear." My grip tightened, and surprisingly, it seemed to work. The system screamed in protest. "It is an injustice. Clara voluntarily traded her own health for yours. But her body was not the same, so her illness manifested early. Clara did it to save me. I stood stunned for what felt like forever, a consuming pain spreading from my heart to my limbs, the agony of losing a loved one. I even considered whether I should just follow her. The system spoke again. You two are something else. Truly, one more ruthless than the other. Fine, fine. Consider it borrowed time. In the next life, both of you will have to work for me. What are you talking about? I asked, unable to make sense of what it was saying. I was ready to question it further, but my head grew heavy, and the sound and light around me slipped away. One last thought crossed my mind. Am I dying? Can I finally go find Clara? Silence enveloped me in the darkness. Then, there were noisy, bustling sounds. A bright light filled my eyes as I slowly woke up. I was back in my senior year of high school. The bell rang, and the teacher brought me into the classroom. Class, this is a new transfer student. He will be studying with us for the next year. Please introduce yourself. I immediately scanned the room, searching for the one figure that occupied all my thoughts. Sure enough, Clara sat in the third row, looking just as youthful and vibrant as I remembered from our school days. This was our first meeting. She looked up, and our eyes met. She smiled at me, a genuine, radiant smile, as if the whole world had boiled down to just the two of us. In that moment, my eyes held no one else, just her. Hi, I said, my voice clear and steady, a promise echoing through time. I'm Leo. It's nice to meet you. If it's possible, I hope we can be together forever.